Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. Psalm 27 is somewhat unique because of the structure of it. Usually in the Psalms you have the lament first and then some statements of confidence in the Lord. Not so with Psalm 27. In Psalm 27, you actually have the opposite. You have David here making some statements of faith, of confidence in God, and then entering into lamenting and crying out to the Lord. And it's clear as you read the psalm that David is wrestling with fear. His enemies were coming up against him. He felt the pressure of that, and he needed the Lord to come through for him. In verse 12, he says, "Do not deliver me over to the desire of my adversaries, for false witnesses have risen against me, and such as breathe out violence." And so David needed to overcome this fear. And in the early part of the psalm, he gives ways in which he could deal with that fear. He says in verse 1, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? The Lord is the defense of my life, whom shall I dread?" And he says, "Though a host encamp against me, my heart will not fear. Though a war rise against me, in spite of this, I shall be confident." And then he makes a profound statement in verse 4, where he says, "One thing I have asked from the Lord, that I shall seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord, and to meditate in his temple." I would say verse 4 really hits it home of how David was able to overcome fear. Yes, it was based on some things that he knew about God. He knew that God was his light and his salvation. He knew that God was the defense of his life. But he also had this attitude of just having one desire. And that one desire was that he would dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of his life, to behold the beauty of the Lord and to meditate in his temple. In other words, to live in the presence of God. David came to the place where he said, "That's the one thing I seek. That's the one thing that I desire." And this is very helpful for a person who's trying to alleviate fear from their heart. You know, a lot of fear is bred in desire. Usually we become fearful because of certain desires that we have, either our desire to obtain things or our desire to retain things. We might be fearful about the future because of certain things we want to obtain. We might be afraid that perhaps we won't get married, or we're afraid that maybe we won't end up graduating college or having a successful career, or having a certain amount of money in our bank account or something like that. A lot of fear arises in our hearts because of our desire to obtain things. Also, our desire to retain things, as mentioned, causes fear. That is, we want to hold on to the things that we already have obtained, whether it's relationships or money or possessions or careers. A lot of our fears are bred out of a desire to retain what we have. So we can see how just having one desire, and that one desire being something that can never be taken away or robbed from us, just having that one desire would alleviate a lot of fear, because we would always have what we ultimately desire. And in this case, it would be walking in the presence of the Lord. And I can't help but wonder how much fear would be alleviated from our hearts if that was the only thing that we sought. Just to live in the presence of God, to enjoy his presence, to bask in his majesty and his greatness, to keep our minds focused on him, loving him, worshiping him, focusing on him, fixing our eyes on him. You know, if we just had that one desire and said, "That's all I really want out of life. If I get those other things, that's fine. But the main thing I want is just to walk in the presence of God and build a strong relationship with him." That was our one desire. I do believe it would alleviate a lot of the fears that we have. And we would live in a constant state of satisfaction, because God is always near and he is always accessible, especially since Jesus Christ has died for us on the cross and made a way for us to the heart of God. So if we find ourselves being fearful, it might be helpful for us to turn to Psalm 27 and verse 4 and to remind ourselves that, you know what, maybe we need to shave off some of our desires and get back to the root of what life truly is all about. And that is walking in the presence of God, loving the Lord, worshiping the Lord, and giving our whole selves up to the Lord. So these are some things to reflect on and to think about as we do our reading today. With that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.